What's up, guys? It's me, Lori, aka Loretta Child, the sex reporter, and I'm in the Miata, and I'm actually gonna drive while I talk this time because I am running late. I am actually on my way out to see a good friend who is visiting New York. Somebody that I knew from when I was living in Brazil. He's also American, and he's in town with his girl, so I'm going to meet up with them. In the meantime, I figured I would just like film a quick Miata Mondays vlog for you. And I don't have anything specific to talk about, but I did kind of want to discuss a series that I'm debating. I don't know what to call it. What I realize sometimes as I cover this topic is that there are a lot of things that we all believe or that we take for granted because of our sex negative culture. Even me, there are just moments where I might have a knee-jerk reaction to something. Like I hear about some bit of news that something happened and my first reaction is like disgust or shock or something like that. And I've come to a place now in my life where I check myself and I'm like, but is it really that shocking? Or is it really that horrible that this thing happened? Or am I just editorializing it in my mind because I grew up in this culture that taught me that sex is like this dirty, bad, sensationalist thing? And more often than not, it is because of the sex negative culture. So I'll give you an example. There is a big case in New York right now that has been made national and international because celebrities have taken up the cause. But basically this kid, a 15-year-old boy in the Bronx, was killed by a group of men with machetes who are they're allegedly part of a gang. And there's been a lot of speculation about the kid's death and the circumstances around it and stuff like that. The cops have only said they're looking into all of these leads. Nobody really knows what exactly happened. But the theory is that this kid was killed because it was a case of mistaken identity. The guys were looking for somebody else, which doesn't make it okay to kill someone, obviously. But then people started looking into who they were after and why. One of the theories floating around is that the guys were related to some girl who had a sex tape with someone who looks like the victim, and they were looking for the guy who posted it. I'm not bringing this up because of the case. I mean, the case itself, it's sad, and people are in New York at least are hoping that it's going to lead to some, you know, change within communities, social change, regulatory change that will make society better. But from my standpoint, if it's true that this kid was killed over a sex tape, that's crazy to me. What people basically think happened was that this teenager made a sex tape with two guys. She was having sex and one of the guys was filming it. And I have not seen the tape myself. I've seen images of it. It was originally posted to Snapchat a long time ago, like last year. Then recently, this thing resurfaced and was posted to other social networks, after which she became humiliated or something like that. People she knew found out, and she basically allegedly said that it was Junior, the victim, who posted it because he looked like one of the men in the video. I have to reiterate now that this is all theory. Nothing is proven. The police are still investigating and reliable news sources have not confirmed this story. But what's interesting to me is that it's totally believable that in today's world, if somebody who is capable of killing in the first place finds out that somebody that they know and love, a relative, was a victim of revenge porn and that a sex tape of theirs leaked on social media because of someone else, many people would want to harm that person or take revenge for that revenge porn. And what does that say about society, right? Because nobody's saying that this justifies this kid getting killed. But the fact that our nature would propel us to want to harm someone over something like a woman having sex on video, the fact that we see that as such a humiliating, shameful thing that someone would be driven to kill over is really sad. Okay, so forgive like no makeup and whatever. I just feel the need to interject here in the video because I think the story is like a little more complicated than I could really fully express while I was driving on the highway, and I realized that like I've left some nuance out. But basically no one else is really talking about this story in terms of like revenge porn, because most people are really fixated on finding someone and getting justice for Junior, the victim, and the horrible way that he died. I don't want to take away from some of the bigger picture issues at play, like gang violence, like the actions of the storekeeper who actually didn't protect him or call the police and actually allegedly kicked him out of the store. Now that store is shut down. Or the cops who arrived on the scene and were like on video not doing anything or taking action as he was dying. So I'm not bringing this up to take away from any of that, but I wanted to talk about this sex tape issue because it has gotten a lot of attention, and people are even talking about blaming this young woman for Junior's death because she may have allegedly been the one to give his name to the people who killed him, stuff like that. But I just think it's worth talking about because this really all could have happened. There was a sex tape. There was a woman in it. A lot of people don't feel sorry for her in any way because it doesn't look like it was filmed against her consent or even distributed against her consent. It might have been redistributed against her consent, but either way, the story is that she felt extremely humiliated when her family found out about it. And that humiliation was enough to potentially set off a deadly chain of events that did end up leading to this huge case that now has us talking about all these other issues. So I do think it's worth talking about, at least in the context of this channel. So I just wanted to make sure I said all that because obviously this case is about so much more than just like the issue that I'm talking about today. One of the women who's like suspected to be the one in the sex tape, her father was like found by reporters and they went to go interview him. And he was just saying like, oh, it's so horrible that his daughter was in it and it's humiliating. And it is, right? Nobody wants their private business to be out in the public. But the level of shame that we experience over this kind of stuff is a direct result of our sex negative culture and being so appalled by things that are sexual. Same thing with like the fappening and when all those videos and photos of celebrities leaked a while back and all the celebrities were like so embarrassed and all it was naked photos of, you know, that they took of themselves that they sent to their partners at the time. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing and I would be embarrassed too, but at the end of the day, what is the big fucking deal? I don't think revenge porn is okay in any way, shape, or form. It's not okay to disseminate nude or even just private photos that somebody sends to you or that you steal from someone without their knowledge and without their permission. But what I'm trying to say here is that there's a distinction between like the act of violating their privacy, but also like the reaction that comes with it. The reason why we suffer so much trauma from revenge porn is because of the way people judge us for it. It's because of the implications that has. Somebody's gonna find out that we took a nude selfie. Somebody's gonna find out that we had sex with somebody on camera. And because that is considered something like kinky or abnormal or dirty or weird, then it leads to people suffering depression, humiliation, sometimes even being driven to harm themselves and stuff like that. And that shit is not okay. But then there's two offenses going on in each of those cases. One being the dissemination of the revenge porn itself, and the other being everyone else's reaction and jumping on it and turning it into such an unnecessarily negative experience. Same thing with like Kim Kardashian's sex tape. Why are people so fixated on the fact that once upon a time this reality TV star made a sex tape with someone she was dating and that ended up becoming a catalyst to her making billions and billions of dollars? It's not to say that she didn't make it or that it wasn't a good bit of gossip at the time, but that's really all it is. Why is it such a point of criticism that she made the sex tape? It's not like it isn't very common for people to make sex tapes with people that they love or people that they're with and in relationships with. Why is that scandalous? It's only as scandalous as we make it out to be. And I guess that's my point. The credibility of any sexual scandal is completely based on the importance that we place on that scandal. So the next time some sex tape or nude or something leaks, if we just get over the fact that people get naked and have sex with each other, it wouldn't be such a big deal and people wouldn't have to be so humiliated at the fact that that kind of stuff is made public. You know what I mean? Let me know what you think in the comments below because I get my fair share of like stupid comments about like, oh, haha, your name is the sex reporter. This, what the hell is this kind of thing? Because people are just so weird about the word sex as if sex isn't the way most of us got here. Sex is pretty freaking natural. Sex is a pretty integral part of human society and our biology. And it's kind of ridiculous that anyone would think that it's scandalous or weird or abnormal or anything like that. So my apologies for the audio being so unbearable. I think in the future when I film car vlogs, I'm gonna have to keep the top up, unfortunately. But I hope you could hear. Revenge porn is just one of the ways that I feel like sex negativity has a sort of like ripple effect in our lives and turns, you know, seemingly innocuous things into horrible news events. There are other ways that sex negativity manifests. For example, stuff that I've already covered on this channel, like the sex robot thing. A lot of us don't think objectively about sex robots. When we hear coverage about sex robots, it's a lot of fear mongering. It's a lot of finger pointing and accusing people who are interested in sex robots for being freaks and weirdos and fetishists and stuff like that, when really these are just enhanced sex toys. Of course, it's a fair argument to, or a conversation to talk about the, you know, the implications of people becoming more isolated and using robots more, and what that means for society, sure. But the fear that really isn't backed up by any real evidence is also part of our sex negativity and not being able to accept sexual behavior that isn't normal. This is obviously a theme that's always going to come up on this channel, but I do want to address it in a more pointed way. So I'm going to leave a poll for you guys to see what you think of some name ideas for a potential series on sex negativity and what it means, because I think a lot of people may not understand it. And I would love to hear your feedback. So let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.